Thanks for dropping by to view this ATTAIN Lab training video on how to print all or part of your document in Microsoft Word 2016. I've included a link in the description below to a downloadable file so you can practice the same setting changes I'll be demonstrating in this video. For your reference, I've also placed a link in the video description that will take you to the Microsoft website, to the Microsoft Office Specialist Word 2016 Skills Measured document. This file lists all of the skills you should master before attempting the MOS certification exam in Word. One of those skills could be setting print options. Let's get started. I've opened the document called Lorem number 2. That document is linked in the description below this video. You can click on the download link if you'd like to download a copy from our Google Drive to your machine so that you can practice these settings. On the screen you can see I'm very far zoomed out. You can tell that this is a 12-page document, imaginary document about sunflowers. The content of the document is actually this Latin placeholder gibberish text. You don't need to read the document to be able to understand and make the setting changes we'll be making today. Since this video is focused on printing, let's start at the beginning, how to initiate a print job. The most common way to start a print job is to use the File tab here in the top left corner of the screen. When you click on the File tab, you will be taken into Microsoft's Backstage view of Microsoft Word, and you can choose Print from the blue bar at the left side of the screen. When you click on the Print, the center of the screen will change to give you print options and a print preview. What's really interesting about this print preview is that at the bottom of the screen there are arrows where you can scroll through each page of your document to check to see how it will look when it prints. This is handy. It can troubleshoot a little when you see perhaps a graphic that is too close to the margin and will be cut off by the printer. Sometimes you can catch it here in the print preview. To return back to your document, you would click on the white arrow in the circle in the top left corner of the screen. Another way that a lot of people like to use to initiate a print job is with a keyboard shortcut. So if you are a keyboard shortcut person, you may be familiar with this already. You can hold the Control key down and tap the letter P to return to the Print Settings dialog box. A third way to initiate a print job takes a little bit of programming and is a little bit lesser known. That would be using the Quick Access Toolbar. The Quick Access Toolbar is the small set of icons located here in the top left corner above the ribbon. By default, Word gives you a Save, Undo, and a Redo icon. But you'll notice there's a tiny down arrow at the right edge of the Quick Access Toolbar. As I hover my mouse over that button, you can see the prompt to customize the Quick Access Toolbar. If I click on the down arrow and choose Print Preview and Print, you'll notice that it puts a small document icon up there in the Quick Access Toolbar. Now, whenever I want to print, I can click directly on that icon in the Quick Access Toolbar, and that will open my Print dialog box and Print Preview. All three methods will get you to the same location. Now that we know how to get here to the print settings and the print preview, let's talk about making changes to these settings. The most important setting to me is choosing which printer you want to print your document out of. Now this might not be an issue for you at home. Most people who have a computer and a printer have one printer available on their home network. It's very common in office settings, though, to have multiple printers available through the network that you can print to. And some of them may be located in an office down the hall, or even in another building. So knowing which printer you want to print to is very important. Also, the capabilities of the printer matter. Some printers can only print black and white. So if you send this document to a black and white printer, but you were expecting a color printout, now you have wasted paper and toner. So understand what printer you'd like to print to and where it's located, and it will be found here on this printer drop-down list. I will choose the top printer. Your list will vary based on the printers available to your computer. Once you've chosen which printer you want to print to, you can then enter the number of copies you would like. Keep in mind that this particular document is 12 pages long. One copy, when sent to the printer, will take 12 pieces of paper. 2 copies, therefore, would take 24 pieces of paper. Now, you can use the up and down arrows here in the box to increase your number of copies. You can also click into the box and type a number. So if I wanted 20 copies, I could click right in there and type the number, or 10 copies. But keep in mind, this is copies of the document. And right now, we are asking this document to have all the pages printed. Print the whole thing. So that would be 12 pages times 10 copies. That would be 120 pages to print this print job. One way we can save pages when we print this job is to print two-sided. So print on the back sides of the paper. The current setting to print one-sided will only print on the front of the page. We can choose this drop-down arrow here to choose to print on both sides of the paper. Notice you have to make a choice. Do you want the pages to flip on the long edge or on the short edge? So this choice here becomes made by you based on how you want the person receiving the print job to read the document. So flip the pages on the long edge, which I am going to choose now, would be if I'm going to bind this somehow. So maybe I'm going to put 3 hole punches here and put it in a binder, or maybe in some sort of a report cover. But right here down the left edge, if this was pinched together, the pages would turn like a book. And when the printer prints the print job, all the pages will be right side up, back to back. If I had chosen to flip the pages on the short edge, you can see from the little icon preview here, imagine that you were going to bind this across the top. A lot of legal documents are bound this way. They will have 2 holes here at the top with some prongs that poke through and be placed in a special sort of portfolio that flips from the bottom up. So the bottom of the page would be turned up above if you wanted to see the next page. The difference in the settings that the computer needs to know is if you are flipping on the short edge, the back side of the page would be printed upside down compared to the front side of the page. And that is so it is readable all the way through the document. If you decide that you want to staple this, and it's a really nice feature that some of the larger printers at networks and offices now can actually staple for you right in the printer. The print would normally be stapled here in the top left corner. And so whichever one of these options you would choose would really be based on how you want the print to be turned by the person receiving the print. Most people, if they're doing a stapled print job, choose to flip on the long edge, but you might like to do the short edge. So that's what those 2 options do. I'm going to choose flip on the long edge. Before moving on, let me just point out at the bottom of the print on both sides option, you can manually print on both sides, and that is for cases of older printers. Sometimes you need to manually feed through backside prints. If that were the case here, if I was using an older printer that needed to be manually fed, what would happen is the odd pages would print first. So 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11 would print. and then I would take those pages and manually feed them through where the printer would print pages 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12 on the back sides. So you may need that based on what type of printer you are printing to. The next setting I want to show you is a little easier to understand if you're printing one-sided. So I have returned the print option here to one-sided. Right below that is the collation option. So collated documents are printed from beginning to end. We are asking for 10 copies of this sunflowers document. So what will happen is the printer will print page 1 through 12 and then start over page 1 through 12 and then start over page 1 through 12, and it will do that 10 times, so we have 10 complete sets with the pages all in order. That is what collated means. You might not always want to print that way. You may prefer to print 10 copies of page 1, then 10 copies of page 2, then 10 copies of page 3, etc., all the way through your print job. So if that's the way you would choose to have it printed, you would want to choose uncollated. In my imaginary sunflower document world, I would like to have sets printed out together. We're going to staple them or bind them together in a cover, so I want them collated. There is a preview here. This is helping you out. So if you want page 1, 2, 3, then 1, 2, 3, then 1, 2, 3, that is collated. Or if you would like 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, that would be uncollated. So the icons here give you a little bit of help knowing which option to choose. The next few options are also able to be set within the Word document in the page layout tab. I'll show you that in just a few moments. But what we're looking at here is the orientation of the paper. So if it is tall-wise, so 8.5 along the top and 11 in height, that is portrait orientation. And if you wanted to turn the paper so it was wide ways, you could choose landscape orientation, and what that does is it's 8.5 tall by 11 wide. Now this paper is letter size paper. That's the common printer paper size in the US. If you needed a legal size, which is something used by the courts a lot, it's 3 inches longer, you could choose the legal paper size. When I choose this, watch my preview. So it added 3 inches to the width of this paper because it is in landscape orientation, and now the paper size is 8.5 by 14. Keep in mind that Microsoft is a worldwide corporation, so they do have some European paper sizes here. The common printer size in, say, the UK is A4. It's very similar to our letter size. It's 8.27 inches by 11.69 inches. It is very important for you to know your paper size because the computer is going to talk to your printer. If I try to send an A4 print job to my printer here in the United States, and it is full of 8.5 by 11 paper, the printer is going to kick back an error to my computer and say that there is a paper size mismatch. So your paper size here in your print settings should match the paper that's actually in your printer. So I will return that to letter size. My document was also created in portrait orientation, so I'll turn that back. Now the last option here that's related to the layout of the paper is the margins. That is the white space around the edge of the paper. There are specific printers that will print all the way to the very edge of the paper. Those are called full bleed printers, but they're usually used by graphic companies or print shops that are making specialized prints. Most home or office printers are going to have a small white band around the edges of at least 1/4 of an inch. This particular margin on this document right now is set at 1 inch. That's the normal margin size. You can see I can choose to change my margins to narrow, which would make them all at 1/2 inch. And you can see how much closer my text got to the edge of the paper. This is now a 1/2 inch gap all the way around. And wide margins, keep a 1 inch margin at the top and bottom, but give a 2 inch left and right margin. So now that's much bigger here on the left and right. That's this empty negative space, the margins around your text. And you can create custom margins or mirrored margins. So if you were going to bind this as a booklet, you might want the outer margin to maybe be 1/2 inch all the way around, and the inside where the fold of the book might be a 1 inch, and they would need to be mirrored so they reflected each other. So these are pretty interesting, unusual margin settings as far as everyday use of the software, but you can choose any of those here. Our document right now is set to print 1 page of the document per sheet of paper, but at the bottom of the print options here, you can see that you can choose to scale your print pages down so that you can fit 2 pages of your print job per sheet of paper, or 4 pages of your print per sheet of paper, all the way down to 16 pages of your print job per sheet of paper. Now, our print here is only 12 pages in size, so if I chose 16 pages per sheet, all of my pages would print on 1 single sheet of paper. It's going to be fairly impossible to read the text at that tiny size. So just be aware that when you choose one of these options, your print job is going to be scaled down in size to fit on the page that you'd like to print. So it will become very difficult to read as it gets smaller and smaller. So far, we've only talked about printing the whole document, all 12 pages. What if I don't want to print every page of my document? There are settings in this print dialog box that will help you choose exactly which pages you want to print. The option to select which pages to print is here at the top of the list. We left it set at print all pages. By clicking on the down arrow, I can choose to print the current page that is displaying in the print preview, or set a custom print. I'll start out by choosing which pages to print. As I scroll through my print preview, I've decided maybe I would like to print pages 1, 2, and 3. Here, under the Pages box, I can type in pages 1-3. That will be pages 1 through 3. Notice the drop-down menu changed to custom print for me. So now, if I were to hit print, I would get 10 copies of pages 1 through 3 collated in order on one side of the paper. That's how you would print a range of pages that touch each other, like 1, 2, and 3. If you want pages that aren't next to each other, you can use a comma. So if I wanted pages 1 through 3, and then I also wanted page 6 and 8, I could do a comma, 6, and comma 8. So this would print pages 1, 2, 3, 6, and 8. There's an option in our print settings that will allow us to print certain selections. Here on page 1, you can see I've selected the title and the introduction only. I don't have to print all of the text on page 1. I can choose to print only what I have selected in gray. Once you choose what you'd like to print and have it selected, in the File, Print settings, instead of a certain number of pages, you can choose to print the selection. Print only what you have selected. And that will only print the title and the introduction because that is what is selected in my document. Before we end the video, I'd like to show you where some of those page setup options I covered earlier are found within the Word software. I've returned back to my document and I'm now on the Layout tab. I do want to show you that here on the left side of the Layout tab, you can choose your margin sizes, normal, narrow, wide, mirrored, and custom sizes. Your page orientation, so if it is tall or wide, and also your paper size. And these three buttons operate very similar to the way they do in the print settings dialog box. As a brief review, to initiate a print job, you can take one of three actions. You can click on the File tab and then choose Print. You can choose to press Ctrl-P on your keyboard, or you can add the print and preview icon to the quick access toolbar. Once you've started or initiated your print job, there are print options you'll need to consider to make sure you don't waste paper and ink and get exactly the prints you're looking for. You want to consider what printer you're going to print to, which pages of your document you actually need to print, how many copies of each page to print, your margin sizes, paper orientation, and paper size as well. As a reminder, it's very important that your paper size of your document match the paper size of the paper in your printer to ensure that you won't get a printing error about a paper size mismatch. Thank you for watching this training video. If you'd like to learn more, please enjoy our Microsoft Office Specialist 2016 training playlist here on our YouTube channel. Or, if you're a New York State resident age 17 or older, consider joining us for a training workshop series. We'd love to meet you. Visit the website shown here or call the numbers on the screen to learn more about the Capital District Educational Opportunity Center ATTAIN Computer Labs.